Council of Princes, which is a constitutional advisory body established in 1946. He is formally attached to the noble household guard of the Royal House of Stuart, founded at Saint-Germain-en-Laye in 1692. And get this, folks, he is the Jacobite historiographer royal, which means he's responsible for the royal history of the Illuminati. So you better listen to what this man has to say. And I'm quoting directly from the book. A popular alternative to absolute monarchy or dictatorship has been found in republicanism. The Republic of the United States was created primarily to free the emergent nation from the despotism of Britain's House of Hanover. Yet its citizens still tend to be fascinated by the concept of monarchy. No matter how republican the spirit, the need for a central symbol remains. Neither a flag nor a president can fulfill this unifying role, for by virtue of the party system, presidents are always politically motivated. Republicanism was devised on the principle of fraternal status, yet an ideally classless society can never exist in an environment that promotes displays of eminence and superiority by degrees of wealth and possession. Now here you have a clue of what he's really leading to, folks, because nobody ever said that this was supposed to be a classless society or a classless nation. What the Founding Fathers says, all men are created equal. They should have the same opportunities, the same rights. It doesn't mean that they have the same ability, the same intelligence, or that they're going to rise to the same level or station in life or in society. But it gave us the opportunity to do that. He talks about an ideally classless society, which confirms everything I've been telling you about the heart and soul of these people being socialist communists. He continues, for the most part, and listen to this very carefully because it confirms everything that I've been teaching you, for the most part, those responsible for the United States' morally inspired Constitution were Rosicrucians and Freemasons. Notable characters such as George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Charles Thomson. The last, who designed the Great Seal of the United States of America, was a member of Franklin's American Philosophical Society, a counterpart of Britain's Invisible College. The imagery of the seal is directly related to alchemical tradition, inherited from the allegory of the ancient Egyptian therapeutes. The eagle, the olive branch, the arrows, and the pentagrams are all occult symbols of opposites, good and evil, male and female, war and peace, darkness and light. On the reverse, as repeated on the dollar bill, is the truncated pyramid, indicating the loss of the old wisdom, severed and forced underground by the church establishment. But above this are the rays of ever-hopeful light, incorporating the all-seeing eye, used as a symbol during the French Revolution. In establishing their republic, the Americans could still not escape the ideal of a parallel monarchy, a central focus of non-political patriotic attachment. George Washington was actually offered kingship, but declined because he had no immediately qualifying heritage. Instead, he turned to the royal house of Stuart. In November of 1782, 4 Americans arrived in the San Clemente Palazzo in Florence, the residence of Charles III Stuart in exile. They were Mr. Galloway of Maryland, 2 brothers named Sylvester from Pennsylvania, and Mr. Fish, a lawyer from New York. They were taken to Charles Edward by his secretary, John Stuart. Also present was the Honorable Charles Hervey Townshend, later Britain's ambassador to The Hague, and the prince's future wife, Marguerite, Comtesse de Massillon. The interview, which revolved around the contemporary transatlantic dilemma, is documented in the United States Senate archives and in the Manor Water Papers. Writers such as Sir Compton Mackenzie and Sir Charles Petrie have also described the occasion when Charles Edward Stuart was invited to become King of the Americans. Some years earlier, Charles had been similarly approached by the men of Boston, but once the War of Independence was over, George Washington sent his own envoys. It would have been a great irony for the House of Hanover to lose the North American colonies to the Stuarts, but Charles declined the offer for a number of reasons, not the least of which was his lack of a legitimate male heir at the time. He knew that without a due successor, the United States could easily fall to Hanover again at his death, thereby defeating the whole independence effort. Since those days, many other radical events have taken place. The French Revolution, the Russian Revolution, two major world wars, and a host of changes as countries have swapped one style of government for another. Meanwhile, civil and international disputes continue, just as they did in the Middle Ages. They're motivated by trade, politics, religion, and whatever other banners are flown to justify the constant struggle for territorial and economic control. The Holy Roman Empire has disappeared, the German Reichs have failed, and the British Empire has collapsed. The Russian Empire fell to communism, which has itself been disgraced and crumbles to ruin, while capitalism teeters on the very brink of acceptability. With the Cold War now ended, America faces a new threat to her superpower status from the Pacific countries. In the meantime, the nations of Europe band together in what was once a seemingly well-conceived economic community, but which is already suffering from the same pressures of individual custom and national sovereignty that beset the Holy Roman Empire. Whether nations are governed by military-style regimes, are elected parliaments by autocrats or democrats, and whether formally described as monarchist, socialist, or republican, the net product is always the same. The few control the fate of the many. In situations of dictatorship, this is a natural experience, but it should not be the case in a democratic institution based on the principle of majority vote. True democracy is government by the people, for the people, in either direct or representative form, ignoring class distinctions and tolerating minority views. The American Constitution sets out an ideal for this form of democracy, but in line with other nations, there is always a large sector of the community that is not represented by the party in power. Because presidents and prime ministers are politically tied, and because political parties take their respective turns at individual helms, the inevitable result is a lack of continuity for the nations concerned. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but there is no reliable ongoing institution to champion the civil rights and liberties of people in such conditions of ever-changing leadership. Britain does, at least, retain a monarchy, but it is a politically constrained monarchy, and as such is ineffectual in performing its role as guardian of the nation. The United States, unlike Britain, has a written constitution, but has no one with the power to uphold its principles against successive governments who determinedly pursue their own politically vested interests. Is there an answer to the anomaly? An answer that could bring not just a ray of hope, but a shining light for the future? There certainly is. But its energy relies on those in governmental service appreciating their roles as representatives of society, rather than presuming to stand at the head of society. Alongside the political administration, an appointed constitutional champion would be empowered to keep check on any potential disparities and infringements of the Constitution that might occur. This can be achieved in the manner first envisioned by George Washington and the American fathers. Their original plan was for a democratic parliament combined with a working constitutional monarchy bound not to Parliament or the Church, but to the people and their written constitution. In such an environment, sovereignty would ultimately rest with the people, while the monarch, as an operative guardian of the realm, would pledge an oath of fealty to the nation, not the reverse, as in Britain's case, whereby the nation pays homage to the sovereignty of Parliament and the monarchy.